Welcome back to One in the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patches Kaplan. We're here today to recap Week 6 and preview Week 7. Patch, how we doing today?
Johnny, I think I might be doing better than you today.
Yeah, you want to start there?
I think, there's a line that I think you and I have even talked about in The Dark Knight when the Joker threatens to chop up that mafia member and feed him to his dogs. And he says, I wonder, something on the lines of, and we'll see how loyal a starving dog really is. I would say right now, you're at that point. How loyal are you to Penn State? Or are you ready to admit that it's time to move on? You are now a Notre Dame fan, and welcome to the dark side.
First off, I'll never jump ship. That's hilarious though, jumping to ND. My grandfather, diehard ND fan. My dad was raised in that. He hated it. He made me a Penn State fan till I die. Them in the Ducks, that's how I grew up. I'll never jump ship. That being said, heartbreaking. That was brutal. That was just a bad spot. There's no other way to say it. That one hurt. That one, I'm trying to think back. Like,
your season's over, Johnny. It's not even Columbus Day weekend.
You
guys are fighting for the Pinstripe Bowl. You're fighting for the Pop-Tart Bowl right now.
Hold your horses, Patch. The best part about college football now, especially in a Power Four, you control your own destiny.
Oh, gotcha.
You don't think if they Penn State, I'm just saying, if Penn State won out, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying they control their destiny. If Penn State won out, beat Ohio State, beat Indiana, end the season 10-2, you can't tell me they're not in. They're in. But
I can tell you that.
What do you mean? If they beat Ohio State and Indiana?
I still think that they might miss with how other two lost teams will be. It's undeniable when you're comparing two losses versus two losses. The other two lost teams are going to be like Nebraska
what about Northern Illinois last year? That was a bad loss. You guys got in. I'm just saying, if the rest of your resume is impressive enough. I'm not saying this has happened. You brought this hypothetical into the equation today. I just wanted to say one thing to you.
It's almost sad though. Like, I don't even like making fun of you right now.
Okay. I didn't do this to you with Northern Illinois last year. No, I'm just saying this. Wouldn't it be the most James Franklin thing of all time to lose to UCLA and that's it? They beat Ohio State.
See, I don't know. Them battling really, really tight and losing on a 4th and 1 to Ohio State. And that's the most James Franklin.
But guess what? All you can ask for in sports is to have a chance. And if they go in there and they shock the world, they have a chance. But it's 1 week at a time with Penn State right now. There's multiple ways you can look at the rest of the season. You can look at it's over, and I think that's just a closed mindset. You can look at 1 week at a time. I have to take accountability as a fan. I wasn't there.
You guys have problems.
But guess what? I'm going to be there this weekend in Northwestern, and we're changing all the vibes up. Me, my parents, Julie and Jack, no burgers, no dogs, no sausages. We're switching the vibes up entirely. We're going full Italian. Italian tailgate. We're going chicken broccoli ziti. We're going meatballs. We're looking penne with sauce. We're going Caesar salad, garlic bread.
You're going to be sleeping before kickoff.
That's 3:30 game, man. I'm going to be.
You're going to be snoozing at 12:30.
Nice and no, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. That being said, Penn State does have problems. The defense still look great. Nico ran all over them. I think a big part of that is Tony Rojas is an unbelievable linebacker, Penn State. He has an undisclosed long-term injury they announced Tuesday at practice. I think losing the middle of your defense, kind of like your quarterback, the green helmet guy, that hurts. But, it's got to be next man up the rest of the season. And everyone in the world is shitting on Penn State, James Franklin. And that being said, I'm going to have my James Franklin discussions at the end of the season when I get to see the final product. But I know it's very different, but everyone in the world wanted to quit on Ryan Day in Ohio State after that Michigan loss last year. And you know what? They gave him to the end of the season, and I'm going to give that to James Franklin. Let's go out there this week. Let's beat Northwestern. We'll talk about Ohio State a couple weeks on the podcast, and we'll talk about Indiana. Maybe you'll be wearing the wig after that on the podcast.
Yeah, no, that would be the craziest turn of events. I'm just a little bit concerned that it wasn't a bad day for Penn State, but rather it was poor preparedness. It was bad coaching.
It was coaching. They didn't get up for it.
And that's scary that you guys got outcoached by a brand new offensive and defensive coordinator. You guys made rudimentary mistakes at the end of the halves, bad uses of timeouts. And the one that's really sticking with me, game on the line. You and I are both firm believers of give you your best player the ball. Drew Aller was the best player on Saturday. That's undeniable. Excuse me. But he's not a runner. He's not the best player when he's a runner.
He's looked pretty good running the ball this year.
That power ISO that they ran or whatever that was, that read counter, it was not a good play. And they ran it twice that day. They ran it twice that game. And the first time they went for -5 in the second quarter. And then that time they went for -3. And I'm just blown away that was the play call. And I'm a little bit concerned that I go both ways. I have completely lost faith in them as a playoff team. In my early biased decision, they missed the playoffs. We'll see them at the Pop-Tart Bowl. And then the other half could say this could have started a fire that's so raging hot that this team could be ungodly. But, I would like to believe the latter. But the problem is just I haven't seen anything out of that offensive line, nor that running back crew, nor of that defense that has me convinced that they still got it in them.
I've been holding on to the take, but I'm a little worried the offense is getting way too cute with the play calling, Colton Hickey. Like, you have a great offensive line. You've got 2 stud backs. But even that Oregon game, you saw a lot of, I don't know, just –
the wide receivers aren't good either, and we need to acknowledge that.
Pena's pretty good.
He is.
But I'm just saying we're getting – I'm just saying we're getting too cute with the play call, especially on first and second down. Like, you've got 2 great running backs.
The nice thing is you have a chance to rebound here. The great thing about failure is you can do everything differently, and no one's going to look no one's going to look down on you. So if they went out there and ran exclusively 10 personnel and it got them the win, now suddenly that's what's defining them. So they can do whatever the hell they want to see what works and what doesn't. As long as if they can continue to win while doing so, it'll allow them to experiment and see. It's a win-win in a sense, right? Like, they can go out there and change what they did, and it could be really, really beneficial. And they storm the field the second half, or they lose another game, and it's exactly what everyone expected.
Yeah, and I just think the greatest privilege in college football is time, and Penn State has 3 weeks. You got to win this week. You got to take it 1 week at a time. You got to win this week, then you got to win next week against Iowa, then you got a bye week, and then you go into the horseshoe. And it's like, hey, it's not about the playoffs right now with Penn State. It's not about the playoffs. It's not about the draft. It's not about coaching decisions. It's 1 week at a time. And you got to go out there and beat Northwestern, and then you got to beat Iowa, and then you got to get better on the bye week, and then you go into the shoe. So it's like 1 week at a time. I think that's exactly what Ohio State did last year. I think this team is still extremely talented. I think they got to be more legit play calling, less cute. And, we'll see what happens. But you asked me to jump ship. You know me. I'm never jumping ship. I was thinking –
I think eventually you will jump ship. But, it just goes to show you how different you and I are, because I've sold out on Notre Dame no less than 60 times in the last 3 years.
I don't know. I was just – the whole week I was thinking, what are the worst losses of my –
Ohio State, in my opinion, last year's against Michigan was worse.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I was talking about my own personal fandom, like just memories as a kid. I was thinking like 2007 Super Bowl against the Giants. I was thinking Cam Newton beating the Ducks to the national championship. I was just thinking that those all hurt me. And guess what? I woke up the next day still with the fandom going. So I'm going to still be bleeding blue and white. And we're going to beat Northwestern this week.
You better. So what's crazy enough, we didn't even have that game on our list of games last week.
Yeah.
Because that's how much of a surprise that it was. But it was a combination of a lot of things, a letdown spot, a high energy, tough game to rebound. So currently, Johnnny, we picked Iowa State at Cincinnati, a game that appeared closer than it was. Iowa State is dead in the water, mostly because their corners are both out. 2 NFL guys that are going to be both drafted in the first 2, maybe 3 rounds. Both of those guys are gone, so their defense has 4 backups on it. You can write them dead in the water. We had Vanderbilt at Bama. Bama is as sleazy as it gets with that front door cover. I'd expect nothing less out of those ones.
Disgusting.
Texas at Florida, another game that's worth talking about. Boise State at Notre Dame, a not overly exciting Notre Dame game, but they did have 4 interceptions. I'd love to see what they're doing on defense. We're slowly starting to put those pieces together. And that's what the tough part about Notre Dame having 2 of arguably the 2 hardest games of the year back to back. And then we had Miami at FSU, another game that looked surprisingly close, but it wasn't. Miami, they loaded the buses before the last 7 minutes. So currently you are sitting at 23 for 39. You are still profitable as of right now. I'm sitting at 19 for 39. I am slightly negative due to that minus 110. You still have 5 Cheesecake Factory picks, point picks. I have 0. We are going to get on the board this week. I'm going with a shoe-in.
Wait, do you want to address your loss last week? That was brutal.
Yeah. Terrible loss.
Crazy.
I had Maryland.
That was crazy.
I thought Washington was in the same position that Penn State was in.
Yeah.
Where they were it was too high of an energy, too big of expectations against Ohio State. Maryland was up 20-0 heading into, I think, the fourth.
That was bad.
And Washington stormed the field at 24-20. It went 24 unanswered. Unbelievable loss. Good thing I don't actually bet real money, or I would have been very, very upset. So we are going to talk a little bit briefly about week 6. Just a little bit more. I want to talk about Vandy and Bama, a game that lived up to expectations. I think people are going to be buying Bama stock in way too much and selling their Vanderbilt stock. But to be honest, I'm kind of doing the opposite.
Yeah, we'll get into it in a second. But just from a schedule perspective, Vandy is still very much alive. That was a disappointing spot just because of the start they got out of. They went up 7-0, and I was like, Diego Pavia, the way they're moving the ball, Eli Stowers at tight end, this team can do it. And then I just think from a talent perspective, they just kind of got suffocated. Like when a boa constrictor got around them, they couldn't match up guy for guy, and then the rest of the game was kind of the Bama show.
I think it was a story of turnovers, right? Diego Pavia had 2 turnovers in the red zone, one of which ended up being a 14-point swing. That interception on the 2-yard line, they were about to score when he threw that, and then Bama went and charged down the field. Not that much time left, and went up by 7. So I am taking it as Vanderbilt had that game they had the game in a chokehold, and they kind of let that slip. It's something that Diego Pavia doesn't do. I don't think he will do for the rest of the year. But I still truly believe that Bama has problems, and I think they're going to struggle to match up this week against Mizzou. We'll talk about that more later, but they cannot run the ball. They are only effective on offense when Ty Simpson has 4 to 5 seconds complete when he's running that play option. It's a problem, and I'm just waiting for them to get exposed. And we wrote down their schedules, tough games. I think they lose 2 more games, and they still can miss the playoff. But I'm still buying in on Vanderbilt. I still think that there's good value. They are currently 6-1 to make the playoff, and Bama is currently minus 350 to make the playoff. So I still think that there's good value there. Texas at Florida, Johnny. A weird game.
Yeah, this was just it's kind of exactly what we were talking about last week, where like Florida's defense is good enough just to muck up any game. Like, I don't know, they play violent up front, and then they kind of just took advantage of it. I can't say underexperienced anymore about Arch Manning because he's played in games and he's been in college football for a couple of years now, but they just kind of took advantage of Arch Manning just not being the guy everyone thought he was. Like, and it's just a shame because that Texas defense can still get after the quarterback, Anthony Hill, and then I'm blanking on the linebacker's name that's going to go in the first round. But I don't know. Michael Taffy also on that Texas defense. Like, that's a great defense, and they just can't – their offense can't stay on the field long enough to keep them in games.
No. Florida did a lot of different things. DJ Lagway looked like the quarterback we thought he would.
Yeah,
Texas doesn't just have an Arch Manning problem. It has a running the ball problem, just like all these other major SEC teams. And we're just seeing how bad the offensive line play is in the SEC. And it is across the board. Georgia can't run the ball. Tennessee certainly can't run the ball. Bama can't run the ball, and Texas certainly can't run the ball. So, without these dual threat quarterbacks, they're struggling tremendously to run inside tackle to tackle.
I just think Texas is in a dangerous spot from an offensive standpoint because they're struggling to run the ball, but I think that's due to Arch Manning. Like, they know they don't have a dynamic guy. Like, defenses know they don't have a dynamic guy at quarterback, and they're daring them to pass the ball. They're stacking the box. They're like, we're going to play the run because we know Arch Manning is not beating us, and the offense just becomes one-dimensional.
Yeah, I see a couple more losses on the schedule. It's crazy. I think we had Penn State and Texas and Clemson all in the national championship, the first ever 3-game national championship game. Boy, was I wrong on all 3. But yeah, no, I'm just disappointed. Texas is exactly who they have been in history. Nothing changes. Nothing surprises me there. So Johnnny, we're going to jump right into, because we have a couple other segments we want to talk about today, is our games for the week. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games this week. An incredibly sneaky week of football, a week where, I'm going to put my seatbelt on and not leave the couch all damn day. To start, I'm just going to go down these really quick, and then you and I can talk about them. We have a non-power 4 playoff game. USF is at North Texas. North Texas is a minus 1.5 favorite. Yeah,
I love
super
this game.
Sneaky, practically a pick 'em. I think it's gone from 2.5 to 1.5. We have Ohio State is heading to Illinois, a game that I don't know. I'm going to learn a lot about both teams, obviously. A game that I will not touch with my wallet, but I will talk about here. Bama is heading to Mizzou. Mizzou is currently a 3-point dog in that game. Indiana heading to Oregon. Oregon's a 7.5-point dog, 7.5-point favorite on that one. Oklahoma at Texas, the Red River Showdown. Some historic Red River Showdowns. We saw one 2 years ago where Oklahoma picked off Quinn Ewers on the 1-yard line. Then you can never forget about Caleb Williams stepping in for Spencer Rattler a couple years ago. Some
Crazy.
really good
I forgot about that.
Yep. Florida's heading to A&M. Georgia's at Auburn, and I want to talk about this line in terms of a logistical standpoint after. It's at 3.5. Michigan is heading to USC, another gritty rematch from last year. Kansas at Texas Tech, a Big 12 matchup that will matter. South Carolina is heading to LSU, a game that I've never rooted so hard for South Carolina. And Arizona State is heading to Utah. So to start, Johnnny, you have USF versus North Texas.
I am taking USF. I do think this North Texas team's awesome. They score out of their mind. I think they scored 56 last week. But I think USF's a little more battle-tested. I think they kind of got their ass whooped against Miami, but they've had plenty of time to lick their wounds. And I think they come back with a big win. I'm actually really, really surprised to see them as an underdog.
I like actually North Texas in this game. I think they're returning a lot of talent from last year. They were a team that was one win away from being in talks of being the Power 4 team behind Boise State. They've got some talent there. They've got a really, really good run game. I think that they dominate the time of possession. Give me North Texas. Ohio State minus 14, 2-touchdown favorite against Illinois.
This game scares me because 14 points is a lot of points. I do think I'm going to take Ohio State. I think you saw Illinois play against elite talent against Indiana, and they just really didn't stack up. I think they're going to be a little more prepared this week, but I just don't think that defense can slow down Julian Sayin, Carnell. You saw Carnell take off like 180 last week, and they still have Jeremiah Smith, and I bet they have 4 other guys in that wide receiver core that's going to be an NFL guy one day. I know Max Clara tight end. Like, I just think the offense is way too talented. I think they win by maybe like 17. Maybe if I'd set the line like 17.5 might be one I'd be a little more picky choosing against, but I'm going to take
Ohio State. I can totally see this one being a 21-0 or a 21-3 type game. I don't see a world where Illinois dominates the line of scrimmage, nor do they really score very much. I think this Ohio State team, with anything less than 10 points, will solidify themselves as the consensus number one. I like OSU here. I think 14 is tricky, but give me 14 in the entire 4 quarters. I think it's going to take the entire 4 quarters to get there, but I like Ohio State here. Bama versus Mizzou. I'm going to start off with this one. I love Mizzou. Mizzou is my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week.
That was mine. Yeah, I was going Mizzou. I was heavy on Mizzou. I'll pick another one. Don't worry.
I love Mizzou here, Johnnny, because their pass rush is truly elite. They got 5 sacks last week. When you get after Ty Simpson, he has struggled. He struggled incredibly against Florida State. I mean, he's been a better quarterback since, but I also think that their defensive line is better than Bama's offensive line. They have a really talented defensive and offensive line. Bo Perbula is a talented, experienced quarterback. This moment is not too big for them. Eli is a great coach. They've played Bama well in the past. I think that this is their year to make the playoffs. They have a tougher schedule, to which we'll talk about, but I think it really comes down to that defensive line. I truly think that their edge rushers and their middle linebackers will get after Ty Simpson and be able to get at him before he can get to Ryan Williams and co. I love the 3. I love the money line. I'll take those 3 free Cheesecake Factory picks.
Yeah, no, that's a bummer because I think I would have picked the same cheesecake. I've said it every week on the podcast. I'm a Bo-liever. I love Bo Perbula. I also have Ahmad Hardy. I think he's the best running back in the country. Like, that offense rocks. I know Jam Miller went for like 130, I think, last week against Vandy, but I really just don't trust that Bama run game. I think Mizzou's going to control time of possession. I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson. Like, especially if Bo and Mud Hardy just extend drives, run the ball, and then I don't know, like if Bama's down and Ty Simpson needs to score fast, I think he's going to struggle. I know he's a stable of receivers, Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, and then Isaiah Horton. Yeah. But I still think if you put the pressure on Ty Simpson, I don't know if he's that guy. So I'm with you on Mizzou.
I'll be the first one to shut up if Bama goes out and beats them 35-14.
Yeah,
I'll be the first one to shut up. But I don't think that that's the case. I really do think that this Mizzou team has the front seven on both sides of the ball. Is something that we haven't seen out of Mizzou in a long, long time, probably since they were in the Big 12. Indiana is heading to Oregon, a game that, I did not think was going to be that big until they put the stomp down on Illinois. I don't know what to make of this, but I am a big proponent of a really good defensive line. Both of these teams have dominant defensive lines, but I do believe Indiana's is actually better. I think that Indiana will dominate the line of scrimmage. I think that they're going to make all the X plays, all the explosive plays for Oregon to completely disappear. I'm going to take the points. I'm not going to have them win the game. I think that Oregon wins by a field goal. I like Indiana here. I think Fernando Mendoza solidifies himself as the Heisman, but we have two Heisman level quarterbacks. We have some experience in this one. We have some good wide receiver talent, but I like Kurt Cignetti here. It would be an incredible spot to see him win and go to 6-0.
Yeah, I disagree with you on this one. I would even alternate spread this to 10.5. I think Oregon is going to beat the brakes off Indiana. I think Indiana is a good team, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a prisoner of the moment, but just seeing it in person, this Oregon team is legit. Not enough people are talking about how good of a job Dan Lanning is doing at recruiting. Like everyone talks about the portal. Lane Kiffin, portal merchant. Dan Lanning, he did awesome in the portal. He got Dylan Thiemann, got the game-winning pick against Penn State, but he's still getting into high schools and recruiting. DeCorion Moore might be the best freshman in the country at receiver, and then DR Hill, true freshman running back, beat out Mekhi Hughes. Mekhi Hughes, everyone said, was the best transfer in the country, transfer from Tulane. He's redshirting the rest of the season. Like, they got young guys that can play. And talking about D-lines, Mateo Ueglege, and I always say his name wrong, but it's Tiatum Tiatui. Sorry, the other DN. Both those guys get after the quarterback. I think Fernando Mendoza has shown a lot of poise. I think he's not gonna have a lot of time. And I just don't think they're talented enough on the outside to score consistently in Oregon. I think Oregon. So
what do you think, like a 30-20 type game?
I think 44-24.
I don't see Oregon scoring that much.
Okay,
but best of luck to you. I think if Indiana wins this game, the Big Ten championship is going to be the most electric Big Ten championship we've ever seen. I'll stand by that. Then we have the Red River Showdown. Oklahoma is heading to Texas. There's obviously a huge asterisk on this game, and that comes down to the quarterback. Is he playing?
Yeah, I haven't heard he's not playing. I haven't heard he's not playing. So
I heard Brett Venables said he's not a doctor, so therefore he will not tell anyone.
That's awesome. That's old school college football coach.
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard it's still very much a possibility. I know that really determines our picks.
Yeah.
I know I've slammed. I don't know. I want to really pick Oklahoma, but I can just see Texas winning this and just, I don't know, just shattering the hopes of Oklahoma. I think I'm going to
I'm going to bank on John Mateer playing and just go from that because I think they'll do everything in their mother for this. I think that this game truly means more to Oklahoma, knowing damn well that they need to get this one. We'll talk a little bit about their schedule, but their Goblet of Fire, worst series of all times, by the way, starts this week with Texas. And, I think that this one means the most because the rest of the games are so damn difficult that they need to get this one. And Texas is down. Texas is down. And, this is, if I remember correctly, didn't Oklahoma beat Texas one year like 35-0, or was that vice versa?
No, I'm not sure the score, but I don't know. I just think this is a spot Texas wins after a loss. I think if they beat Florida, I'd be a little more hesitant. But I think that defense is just a little too talented. Oklahoma looked good, not great against Michigan. I think Texas might be a little better than Michigan. So I don't know. I don't know.
I just love Oklahoma's ability to get to the quarterback. They can get 6 or 7 big sacks in a game, excuse me. And I think that's remarkable getting after Arch Manning. I think that they're big up front. I love their linebacker core. I do think that this game just means more. And when it's a pick 'em at a neutral site, I love Oklahoma in this spot.
Yeah, I just think, Deion Burks from Oklahoma, don't get me wrong, might be a top 10 receiver in the country. I just think Texas has the help over the top with Michael Taffy to kind of contain him a little better than anyone else Oklahoma has faced, but we'll see.
Yeah, if it's the backup quarterback, the kid who runs like a 4.3, he's stupid fast but can't throw, you can just guarantee that this game goes to Texas. Florida is heading to A&M. Florida's coming off one of their better wins. There's a huge asterisk on this win because we have no idea if Texas is even good. So to call it a big win is one of those that we're saying it's a big win on October 8th. But, come November 8th, I could say that was nothing special, just like LSU's win against Clemson. But I'm going to, for today's argument and for today's sake, call this a big win. But this A&M spot is big for A&M at home, means a lot. They're currently 7.5 points favorites. I'm going to take the 7.5 here. Marcel Reed, a really good quarterback. I love their wide receivers, 2 transfers, one from Mississippi State, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. One has that really French name. What is his name? It's
I'm looking it up.
Concepcion or something like that.
Oh no, Casey Concepcion. He went from he's from NC State. He was
NC State. And then there's another one from Mississippi State who's just as good. I just love to see that. This is going to be gritty. And this is a weird spot where we could see 2 things. Is that we're going to see last week's Florida, and this is a true dogfight. This is a 60-minute. It's going to come down to the last 3 plays, 250 yards to 250 yards, 10 first downs to 10 first downs type game. Or we're going to see the first 3 weeks of Florida in A&M's going to beat them 28-7.
Yeah, no, I'm taking A&M just because I really respect Florida's defense. Like we talked about it before we started recording. I think Florida's defense is good enough to muck up any game. I just don't really trust. Florida's offense has been so hot and cold. JJ Lagway looked awesome last week. But then against LSU, they threw 5 picks, and it was just a totally different team. So I just don't think they'll be able to score consistently enough to keep up with A&M. I'm going to take A&M with the points, just because I think Marcel Reed and the boys will be able to. I don't know. I think they'll be able to put up 28 or 35, and I just don't see Florida hanging in on a game like that.
And I want to talk about this next game just briefly. I don't think it should really be a conversation, but this spread has me awfully concerned. Georgia -3.5 against Auburn. I wasn't going to include this game. I don't think that this was going to be that big of a game, but clearly there's something that I'm missing that has Georgia at only barely a field goal favorite. And for reference, I know they're at Auburn. That's a tough place to win. Was Jimmy O'Hare Stadium, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But when they're hosting Ole Miss, they're a 5-point favorite. So make sense of that. They're 3.5 at Auburn, or when they host Ole Miss, the number 4 team in the country. They are a 5-point favorite. You can bet that right now on DraftKings. But I'd have to go with Georgia. This seems like there's a spot that it's missing. It almost seems like DraftKings is baiting me with some warm chocolate chip cookies, and I'm going for all of them.
Yeah, this screams that the Vegas knows something we don't know. I'm still going to take Georgia. I think they're better. I think Auburn. A reoccurring theme of them has been they're a super talented team. They did great in the portal this year, but they just don't have the guy behind center. And I just don't think – you've seen Georgia win a couple different ways this year. You've seen win a shootout with Tennessee. You've seen them win close games. And I don't know. I trust Georgia. I trust Kirby Smart more in this game.
The next game, Michigan at USC. This game means the world to us Notre Dame fans. We need USC to win this game. We need them to have some kind of relevance in the Big Ten and to go out there and beat a blue blood that is Michigan, that is still kind of in the playoff hunt, unlike last year at this time. We truly do need USC here, -2.5. I love it at home. I love it even more. I think they battled Illinois, a really good Big Ten team. Probably should have won that game. But I love USC. Give me the field goal. I'm even stretching that out to 6. I think USC dominates this game.
I'm sick about this game, Patch. I'm going to take USC kind of for similar reasons with the last game I just picked. I think USC can just score a little more efficiently than Michigan. I think Michigan relies on Justice Haynes to do a lot of work. Like a couple games have won, especially that Nebraska in the Oklahoma game. He like broke like 5-yard runs. I don't think that's I don't think you can rely on that. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But I'm sick about it just because of how USC looked against Illinois. I didn't think Illinois had a super dynamic offense, and they able to just kind of score at will against them. I don't think USC's defense is great. But
I don't think they need to be great against Michigan, though, Johnnny.
I know, but I don't know. I trust Jordan Maeva more than I trust Bryce Underwood, so I'm ultimately going to go with USC there. I don't know. There's something fishy. I just don't like it. I don't like Michigan at all. But I think they're very alive in this game. Like 2.5 scares me, but I'm going USC.
Yeah, I'm with you. There is something weird about this one. I could see this game being won in the trenches, and if that is the case, Michigan will win just like they did last year. I would have never thought that Michigan would have won last year. They threw the ball really well against USC, and then finally they were getting about 1 yard per carry. If you rewatch last year's game, it was sickening. Michigan was averaging about 1.5 yards a carry, and then in the second half they were averaging about 4. And then on the last drive they were averaging 8. It was absolutely disgusting. USC couldn't get off the field. This is a sick taste in your mouth type game for USC, and that's what I think gets them over the hump. Kansas at Texas Tech, a game that has less relevance within their own conference, but I just want to talk about it because I do think that Kansas is a good team, played the SEC, Mizzou really, really well, but Texas Tech is rolling. There is not a soft spot on that team from D-line to O-line to wide receiver core to quarterback play to running the ball. Is probably their lowest point is running the ball, but I still love Texas Tech at -14 here, Johnnny.
Yeah, I'm with you with Texas Tech. I was a little hesitant when I first saw this. I think Kansas is a tremendously well-coached team, and they make a lot of games close. That being said, Texas Tech doesn't have a great schedule. Like, they have a lot of cupcakes. They have a couple pretty good Big 12 teams down the stretch, like Kansas, like BYU. But I think they already know they're going to get disrespected by the playoff committee. So I think they're kind of in that same spot we talked about with like Notre Dame, where they're going to kind of have to make a fool of a lot of teams and run up the score. So that's why I like them at -14.
Yeah, no, I think they're gunning for a top 4 spot, and I think they're not gunning for 3 or 4. South Carolina at LSU, a game that I'm not going to turn on. I'm not going to watch those bums down in New Orleans. I hate what LSU is doing. I hate the fact that they had all this hype and now they're just underperforming. Cannot figure out, just like Bama, just like Georgia, just like Tennessee, they cannot figure out how to run the ball. Something that just isn't lining up with what Brian Kelly has done historically, where he used to run the ball 20 to 28 times a game at Notre Dame and at Cincinnati. So I just don't understand for the life of me why they can't develop any kind of run game. Garrett Nussmeier seems like he's injured here. I love South Carolina. I'm rooting for South Carolina because I don't want LSU in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I don't want them in the playoff picture either. I don't think they're that good. I am going to take LSU with the points just because South Carolina has been very disappointing. To me, Lenore Sellers is a guy we talked about all off season, tremendously gifted. He hasn't looked the part. They had that really bad game against Vandy. And then even you look at the game against Mizzou, 29-20, that's not covering. I think LSU will be able to figure out enough offensively, and that defense really, really scares me. I think that defense is going to cause Sellers fits all day. I think South Carolina's team that is – I know, but I just think South Carolina's a team that's tremendously gifted individually. I haven't seen them put it together all season, and until they do, I'm going to pick against them.
Finally, we have Arizona State heading to Utah, 2 teams that are fighting for their spot in the Big 12 with Texas Tech. I think it is probably 3 or 4 teams that are still battling it out, which is probably one of the the ACC is automatically kind of decided. The Big Ten is closing its doors very soon. The SEC and the Big 12 still have some stuff going on. Utah, playing well. Arizona State had that tough game against Mississippi State. If they didn't, this game would be a lot bigger. I actually like Arizona State here. I think that Arizona State is playing really good football. I like Kenny Dillingham. I like their quarterback, Sam Levitt. I think that they could win this game. Utah is still battling some injuries. They always have a little bit of an injury bug, but I like Arizona State covering, not winning.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think Utah's going to win this game, but I think 6 is a little too much. I think they win by maybe a field goal. So I'll take ASU with the points. I think Kyle Whittingham and Devin Dampier are a great duo. I think they're too good to lose at home. That's a great environment. My girlfriend's sister lives right down the street. She says they can hear them all night when they got a night game. The crowd gets crazy right next to the mountains. I like Utah to win this game, but I think 6 is a little too much. Kenny Dillingham's a great coach. And then Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson are tremendously talented.
Yeah, no, we're spot on. So we have 11 good games to watch this weekend. I'm going to jump right into my AP poll. Absolutely preposterous poll of the week. Still comically bad. There's 4 teams that I absolutely hate where they are. To start, I dislike how we have Ole Miss at number 4. We are at week 6 going into week 7 of college football. We are heading into Columbus Day weekend. We know what teams are to some degree. What they are now is not what they are in a month, but we should be exclusively going off resume, right? And there's a couple teams that I think have the best resume. There's one that stands out more than others, and that's Miami. They have a great win over Notre Dame. They have a great win over Florida. They have a great win over USF, and then they have a great win over FSU, all ranked teams when they played them, in multiple top 10 matchups. And so it's comical that they're not ranked number 1, but I understand why people would vote for Ohio State as number 1. They are the previous national champions. Until you can knock them off, they should probably stay there. But Ole Miss at 4 just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They played some D2 colleges, some D3 colleges, and then LSU, a team that I'm already bashing on. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And speaking of LSU at 11, they haven't proven anything. They have yet to win that game. They have yet to cross that bridge. I don't like Vandy at 20. I think that one is a little bit top heavy in the sense of they should be top 10 before Bama. And now after Bama, it's a top 10 loss. Why are you dropping 10 spots because you lost to a top 10 team? It's funny how that works. It's like, why play top 10 teams then? Right? Why not pull a Texas Tech? Why
you're right.
Top 10 teams. Like if I was Vanderbilt, I'd want to leave the SEC and go to the ACC if this is the case. And then finally, FSU, 2 losses, 1 to Virginia, 1 to Miami. They did not put a top 25 performance on the board for Miami. It was 28-3 when they started scoring. It was comically bad. They're a fraudulent team. And then I also have some good things that I like about this. I love where Mizzou is. I think that Mizzou is a good team. I like them at 14 simply because they have not beat anyone that warrants anything higher, and they have not lost to anyone that warrants anything lower. I like that Notre Dame back into the top 16. They are at 16, but I'm going to lobby for my Irish right here, and I hope I don't sound nearly as biased as you did in the beginning when you were talking about Penn State. But we have arguably I know we have the 2 best losses in college football, right? There's not another team in the land that has played 2 top 5 teams in A&M and Miami, lost by less than 3 points for both of them, and should be ranked this high, right? If we even went 1-1, we'd be a top 8 team. We didn't, I obviously can't deny that, but when it comes time to it, saying, what would you rather have Notre Dame do? Play 2 top 5 teams and lose by less than a field goal, or would you rather play, Kent State? So it's funny when you punish them for losses against elite teams. It's not like we're losing to lower end teams.
Well, I don't know. I think it's
we're losing to top 5 teams.
Well, okay. First of all, I don't know if Texas A&M's a top. We're gonna see if they're a top 5 team at the end of the season. You know what I mean? Like they're top 5 team now.
We speak as of October 8th, Johnnny, and right now.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I don't know. I wouldn't put them any higher than 16. I don't think you can. Like
I think you can. They've put on enough to where you can
say they have 2 losses. There's too many undefeated teams to do that. There's too many. You gotta get rewarded for what
you're telling me LSU's loss to Ole Miss is more impressive than Penn State Notre Dame's loss to.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they have some teams are undefeated with 1 loss and they've got 2 losses. And also, I don't feel bad that they have to play these teams early in the season. Join a conference. You know what I mean? And then your conference schedule will do all the work it needs to. So it's like they have to play those games because they refuse to join a conference. So I'm not going to reward them.
I'm not saying they don't have to play the games. I love the fact that they play these games. Us as Notre Dame, us Fighting Irish, live for these games, and we thrive in these games. It's just funny how we can.
I don't know if you thrive
prioritize the fact that we, if we played 1 and 2, if we played Ohio State, Oregon, and Miami. First 3 games of the year, we lost by 2 to 3 points for each of them, and we're not in the top 25. You're telling me that any other top 25 team could do that?
I don't think you'd lose to 3 points to Ohio State or Oregon.
I think we'd win all 3.
I don't think you'd win. I think there's Ohio State and Oregon.
That was a hypothetical. Screw you. That was
a big gap. I think it's a big gap in everyone else. No, you can't just be a hypothetical if we beat Ohio State and Oregon. I think those
hold on. I didn't say that. I said if we'd lost 2. I think it's funny that we're getting punished for playing tough opponents, but LSU is getting put on a freaking pedestal for beating Clemson, who has 2 losses in the
Clemson
damn
was like a
ACC.
top. I don't know. Clemson was a top 3 team at the time. Also,
At
LSU.
the time.
Yeah, no, but
At the
also
time, Texas A&M and Miami are they're them right now.
no, but I'm just saying LSU. We don't
Notre Dame's
need
be a top 5 team.
I don't.
On to
I
the
don't
next.
need. No. I don't. No. First of all, no. I'm going to get this point up. I don't need to argue if LSU's better than Notre Dame because LSU still needs to play South Carolina, Vandy, A&M, Bama, and Oklahoma. We're going to see how good they are. The problem with Notre Dame is we saw them play these really good teams early on, and now they're going to play cupcakes for the next 2 months, and we're really not going to know how good they are at the end of the season. We're not going to know because they've played bad teams for the last 2 months. We talk about. You said. We judge teams on the day. I don't know what Notre Dame is going to be like in December because they haven't played anyone.
Just because they lose.
What? No, I'm just saying.
Just because they lose.
No, I'm just saying they won't. We judge teams how they play at the end of the season. Like they grow with the season. It's going to be hard to judge Notre Dame because they really just don't play anyone the rest of the way. You guys need USC to win this week. And you know what killed you? Louisville losing this week killed you. Louisville losing this week killed you guys.
Well, hold on. You can judge a team by a loss. That's what I was trying to say with my argument. Is let's say Notre Dame goes into the Goblet of Fire, worst series ever, and plays Ohio State, Oregon, and Miami, right? In the next 3 weeks, we play Ohio State, Oregon, and Miami in this hypothetical infinite universe world, and we lose by 1 point to all 3 of them. You're saying that in right now, let's say in this hypothetical world, that Notre Dame is 6-0. Right, and then we go 0-3 in the next one. You're going to tell me that you don't know who Notre Dame is? Yes, you do. They're 1 point loss against 1, 2, and 3.
I don't know. They still lost, though.
You know just as much from a team who has lost as a team that has won. The only reason you're stuffing at nose is because they have a 2 in that column, and all these other teams have a 1. We're going to talk about that. In this, I have this written down on my paper. Is that the good part of the AP poll is not seeing Penn State on there, nor seeing Texas. That is not a dig at you with how you argue with Notre Dame.
Yes, it is.
No, I have it written. I had it written beforehand.
Okay. I'm just saying. Texas A&M still has to play Florida, LSU, Mizzou, SC, Texas. These are great chances. That team is too.
So if they go 3-2 or 3-1 or 4-1 in those,
they're not a top 5 team anymore. Then what's Notre Dame?
They're not. But you still know who they.
If Texas A&M's not a top 5 team, what's Notre Dame?
So what do you expect Notre Dame to do? Right? They lost the ACC champ and they lost the likely top 3 SEC team.
First of all, you can't name Miami the ACC champ right now. That's crazy.
They're like minus 400.
I know. I'm just saying you can't say it till the game's won.
I just think it's silly to say you don't know who Notre Dame is.
I don't know who they are. I have no idea who they are.
Just because they didn't win. I'm serious.
Because they haven't beaten a good team yet.
You better tread lightly, Mr. Glasshouse.
I'm not. Dude, we're not talking about Penn State now.
I'm salty because I know who Notre Dame is. They're a team that had a 1 fuck up against A&M, and then they had 1 bad play against Miami, an interception at Miami. 2 incredibly tough games.
I don't know. That defense is weak. The defense is good. The offense is awesome. The offense is awesome. It did. Yeah, you're right. It did.
No, it's unfortunate because, like, if let's say we were in a soft conference like the ACC or even the Big 12, right? And we play 1 out of conference game and lose, then it's hard to deny that, like, in the exact same boat that Texas Tech is. How good are they? It's like, well, it's not their fault. The rest of their peers are just not keeping up. We need to evaluate by wins and losses as a whole and cumulative properties through cross-conference play.
We should just join conferences, man. It'd be so much easier.
No, I like the fact that they're with the NBC because you can always see them on TV. Johnnny, I want to give you the floor a little bit for this new segment.
Yes.
This is our SEC playoff picture. The reason we wanted to do this for our listeners is that truly the SEC is going to be pure chaos.
Yes.
Like a type of chaos that I don't think we've ever seen. A chaos where if you told me today which 4 teams, because I think it's safe to say that there's going to be 4 from the Big 10, 4 from the SEC. There's going to be 1 from the ACC, 1 from the Big 12, 1 non-power 4, and then our boys up north in the Fighting Irish. But if I was to tell you the 4 teams that make the playoffs are the SECs today, and then the 4 teams on Sunday, and then the 4 teams next Saturday, they'll all be different. And that's why we want to do this.
I know. So the reason we thought of this was the SEC definitely is the conference with the most on the line because The Big Ten's kind of shaping out. ACC is looked pretty weak. Big 12 is kind of top heavy. But the SEC, we had a long debate. We went out in Salem. You're a big Halloween guy. We had a long conversation all day about the SEC.
Yeah.
Because we were arguing this. I don't know if any team is great, but there are a lot of teams that are good. So what I did was I wrote down the top 9 teams right now.
I don't think our opinion is going to change either, though, Johnnny.
No, I know. But ready, I separated into there's 3 undefeated teams and there's 6 one-loss teams. Out of the undefeated teams, I wrote down who the top opponents are for the rest of the way. I want you to tell me who you trust the most out of these 3. So ready? And I can repeat. You can ask me as many times you want if you want me to repeat any matchups. But so the 3 undefeated teams, and then I'll go into the 6th one loss. So we got Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. Ole Miss still has to play Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Florida. Texas A&M still has Florida, LSU, Mizzou, South Carolina, Texas, and Oklahoma has Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama, Mizzou, LSU. Bad schedule for OK.
Tough.
So realistically, 4 teams are going to make it. So we'll pick one out of this group, and then we can pick one out, and then we can maybe pick 2 wild cards. So out of those 3, who do you like?
I like Ole Miss simply based on schedule. I think that they're at Georgia, a really tough game at Georgia. They can drop that game. They're still going to make the playoffs, but give me them over Oklahoma and give me them over. I wrote Mississippi State as well. I like their schedule. They probably have one of the easiest big SEC schedules. I could see them going undefeated, being one of the best teams in the country at the end of the year with 12 wins, a historic season for Ole Miss. I just think that A&M's away games are too hard. I think heading to LSU, heading to Mizzou, heading to Texas to end the year is just too hard. But if we can even go 2 out of 3 or 2-1 on that, I love A&M. OU, there's nothing they can do.
I love OU.
They're playing a dragon schedule, and it's unfortunate. They're going to be a really good team, but they're just not going to get through this.
No, I think you're totally right there. I love OU. That schedule is brutal. Texas A&M scares me a lot just because Florida's a weird game this week. And then I see them losing to Mizzou. And can't you just picture Texas A&M, everything on the line, losing to Texas last game of the season? Like big brother, little brother. I think Texas A&M is better. I can just see them dropping that game. And that scares me because, it would be cool to get the Aggies in. And then, so that's 3 undefeated teams. And now you got 6 one-loss teams going into week 7. And as I said, they're going to be lucky to get 4. 5 would be crazy, but 4.
5 would be biased.
So I think they get 4 in. It's already the 6 one-loss teams, and you can tell me. I'll read the schedules if you want. It's going to be kind of bulky, so I'll just name the teams first. But we got Bama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Mizzou, Vandy. 6 is a lot, so take your top 3 right there out of Bama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Mizzou, Vandy.
So it's tough because we already have some win-losses, right? So we know that Bama beat Georgia. We know that Bama beat Vandy. And we know that Georgia beat Tennessee. So it'd be hard for me to pick Tennessee or Vandy over any of those. Yeah. So automatically, I would say my top choices of this would be Mizzou, who we're going to see this weekend. And I love their schedule. They
wait. Bama. I was wrong. Sorry, I was wrong before.
Oh, Mizzou is still undefeated.
Mizzou's undefeated.
Mizzou and Ole Miss schedule, I would say side by side are
my
very,
bad.
very
My bad. That's on me.
Mizzou splits those tough games. They host Bama, follow that with hosting A&M, and then they finish the year at OU. Give me that. I like
Mizzou. Yeah, if we put them in that top 4 before, I think I'd take.
So I think that right now we have Ole Miss in the playoffs. I think that we have Mizzou in the playoffs. Bama is a sneaky tough schedule, right? They already have 1 loss against an out-of-conference opponent who's not looking all that good. They're at Mizzou. They host Tennessee. They host LSU. They host OU. They host. So a very good home schedule. But with that being said, I don't think that they got out of there with anything less than 2 losses. I think they end the year with 3 losses, and they could get in at 11 or 12 with 3 losses and make a stir. But I'm going to say they're going to make the playoffs.
I don't know because let me push back on you 1 second. So Bama's got 1 loss to FSU, and you're right. That might age. That's good. That could age really poorly.
That's going to age terrible.
I think they lose to Mizzou.
Yep.
I can see them just getting in a bad shootout with Tennessee. Just like Tennessee,
too.
Joey Aguilar. And then, anything can happen end of the season with
LSU.
Auburn. With LSU too, but
Yep.
Auburn too. Like the Iron Bowl's a game. It's kind of like Michigan, Ohio State, where it doesn't matter if one team is dramatically better.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen in that game. So I don't know. Bama kind of scares me, even though if the season ended today, they could have the best resume just with their wins. But I don't know.
Their win over Vandy and their win over Georgia at Georgia is going to age well because Georgia's going to end well, right? They go to, they host Ole Miss, they host Texas, and then they host Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech might be a neutral site game, but those are games that they could realistically go 3-0. And if their one loss is to Bama, then Bama technically has a tiebreaker if they get tied. But if I was to pick, I really like Ole Miss. I really like Mizzou. I really like A&M. And then finally, I do like Vandy. I do think that Vandy is going to host LSU. They're going to Mizzou, though I think they dropped Mizzou. I think they beat Texas. I think they beat Tennessee. 2 losses. I think gets them in the playoffs. I think that they have what it takes to make the playoffs. That's very, very controversial. But I think that if you look at quality of schedule, quality of home games, quality of away games, Bama's is too tough. OU's is too tough. LSU is too tough. And even Georgia has me concerned. Ending the year with Georgia Tech has me concerned.
I was just about to say that last game of the season against Georgia Tech. Haynes King is just gonna.
He's coming for blood. He's going to die.
Yeah, they should have won that game last year.
They should have won that last year. And
I think I would go Ole Miss. I'm still not ready to trust A&M. So Ole Miss, Mizzou, definite. You could toss A&M in there. Do you know what I really liked? Sprinkle it. Tennessee. I think Tennessee. I think Tennessee. I think they beat Vandy. I think that's a game not a lot of people think of when they talk about rivalries. Tennessee Vandy's a big rivalry in state. That's a huge game. I think they kind of outscored Bama. Oklahoma, Florida. I think they're good enough to beat both those teams. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll see. But I kind of like Tennessee getting in. Just from I think they're gonna be a tough out in the playoff just because they can score so well.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think it really comes down to who avoids who and who has home for what. And, sneaking away with 2 losses, I think all jokes aside, every team in the SEC will have 1 loss. I think the other 3s will have 2, and then 1 will have 3 losses. It's going to be absolutely disgusting. But, we'll see a lot by the end of October. I think we go from 9 teams being in the contention to 5 teams by the end of October, if not only 4, maybe 5. But, yeah, the SEC is going to be absolutely disgusting.
Yes. You want to move on to winners and losers?
Yeah, we have our winners and losers, and we'll end with our parlay and your Cheesecake Factory pick.
Yes. Okay. Winners and losers. So, once again, I am back with these. I try to pick a little more off-grid picks just because we talk a lot about the big games of Power 5, well, now Power 4, all those stuff. So, I try to pick some stuff that's not on people's radar. So, the first one I did is for winners, BYU and Bear Bachmeier. BYU was kind of a weird story. We didn't touch on it a ton because it was a bad situation. It was a weird situation. But BYU sitting at 5-0 right now, ranked 23 or 24 in the country, depending on the coaches poll or the AP poll. This is a team that is very much alive in the Big 12. They played Texas Tech late in the season. That could be a playoff game plus the Big 12 championship game. But for all of you college ball knowers, Bear Bachmeier should sound familiar. Hank Bachmeier was just a legend at Boise State, went to Wake Forest. He played like maybe 7 to 10 years in college football. His brother, Bear Bachmeier, is the quarterback for BYU. Number 47. Crazy.
So
thrown to his younger brother, Tiger Bachmeier. So the fact that their oldest brother's Hank, the next 2 brothers' names, Bear and Tiger. That's crazy. I don't know why Hank and then Bear.
Okay,
that's crazy. Okay, next winner is Navy. Big win over Air Force, 34-31. That does give them a huge lead right now in the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. That goes out to the Service Academy with the most wins this year. Navy, undefeated, playing really great football right now. And then my final winner is Cincy, winning the wife swap. And by wife swap, I mean a couple years ago, they just switched coaches. Cincy and Louisville just switched. It was the year you and me went to the Fenway Bowl and saw Louisville play Cincy the week they switched. They both had interim coaches. Deion Branch, Patriot legend, was coach in Louisville because he's an alum that day. Big win for them. But Cincy, just a huge win. They were kicking the crap out of Iowa State for most of that game. Rocco Beck did make a comeback at the end. Also, shout out Rocco Beck, just getting killed out there.
Yeah,
like he's not.
It's,
he's
it's almost like juices him up like Michael Myers. Like the more he gets hurt, the better he is.
He just gets smoked. They did make a comeback, 38-30 final score, but just a super weird situation initially when Scott Satterfield and Jeff Brom basically just kind of switched jobs. But since he's very much alive, another Big 12 team that is still in it. And then losers, some people we haven't talked about. Obviously, we talked enough about Penn State. That is a loser of the week. Another guy we haven't talked a lot about is Bill Belichick. That was a tough loss, UNC to Clemson. Clemson's a team that was kind of limping to the finish line. You kind of thought UNC might be a little live in that game. No, it was just bad the whole game. UNC's in a really bad spot. I was very surprised because that's a team that has a lot of NIL money. You think Bill Belichick going into on a recruiting standpoint would be very efficient, but it's been a tough road for them. Arch Manning just dropping that one. The nails are getting hammered in on the coffin for him right now. Texas is in a really bad spot. And the final loser of the week is the ACC. Bad week for the ACC. The ACC really needed Florida State to win to keep the two playoff teams alive. Also, Louisville losing really hurts them because they were an undefeated ACC team. If they were going to get two teams in, it was going to be FSU or Louisville. Both those teams losing this week really hurts the ACC's chances of getting two bids. It looks like it's going to be a one-trick pony with Miami right now for them.
No, it does. I absolutely loved every single one of those, Johnnny. We're going to dive into some of our parlays, but before we do that, we have a guest picker who's here from a distance. He's one of the biggest haters of the One in the Trenches podcast just because he can't formulate his own opinion, and that's Mr. Keith. We call him Brendan. We call him Speed. We call him Beef. We call him everything. So his best bet of the week is Texas moneyline. Boy, do I not like that. I freaking hate that. Leave it to Keith, a moronic first pick, coming out with a bang. He has Bama -3. He's all over the place. He has Illinois plus 14.5 in parentheses. Hater. Sprinkle money line. Good Lord, Keith, put the bottle down. He has Florida plus 7.5. Parentheses, sprinkle money line. USC, we love. Oregon, we're right in the middle on, and then Penn State -21.5. He is a big buy low, sell high kind of guy. Upset of the weekend is Illinois or Oklahoma State. Keith, my one shout out to you is I hope you mix in some water and don't bet your entire paycheck because this is comically bad.
I'm glad Keith got those picks in because I have my hater pick of the week. Matt Pittman, huge fan of the podcast, big hater of me and yours. His sicko pick of the weeks he has Michigan State -8.5 over UCLA. A big FU to me. And he also has NC State plus 23.5 versus Notre Dame. He is loving those picks. He's a big in spite gambler.
Take a walk, Matt. You're comically embarrassing yourself. Notre Dame is going to go 10-2, make the playoff, and they're going to make another run. They have all the components to be big-time team. That's comically bad. That is out of spite. I know some of Keith's are. Matt and Keith, thank you for starting our new segment, Haters of the Week. I hope you guys really hear this out. So, Johnnny, I have a 3-leg parlay, almost exact opposite of what Keith was saying. Pay $7.13 plus $7.13. You bet 10, you win $71.30, enough to buy a new pair of jeans and maybe take your wife or girlfriend out to dinner. I like USC money line. I like Oklahoma money line. Like I said, I'm banking on John Mateer playing. I think that they're doing this for attention. I think that they're doing this so they don't know who to predict as their quarterback. It's a great play out of Brett Venables, who plays really well in this game. And then finally, I like the Mizzou money line. Give me all three money lines, kind of an underdog parlay, plus $7.13. You bet 100, you win $7.13. You can pay off your car. It's a great deal.
Sweet. Then I got my two picks. So as I said before,
for
my cheat. Well, no, for my cheesecake and my parlay. No, so originally I really like Mizzou. I will, if I was going to bet, I'm going to bet Mizzou. I think they're very much alive this week. But shifting over, always have a second option. I love USF plus 1.5 versus North Texas. I think they should be favored in this game. No disrespect to North Texas. I think they did return a lot of production, but I think USF is battle tested. They beat the hell out of Boise State. Really emotional win against Florida, who looked good last week, and then a challenging loss to Miami. But I think they're very much alive. Moving on to my
really
parlay.
shooting for the stars on that one, Johnny.
Hey, okay. Well, you took mine. I had to totally audible in the
heels,
moment.
Dude.
Audible. That was an audible. Okay, my parlay. I'm also shooting for the stars plus 1450. 10 wins you 155. Buy dinner for your friends. Okay, so it's 4 picks. Plus 3. Mizzou plus 3.5 versus Bama. I think Mizzou is going to win. I would have taken them with my cheesecake, but I'll take them plus 3 versus Bama. Then I'm going Oregon, alternate spread minus 10.5 versus Indiana. That makes this parlay. That makes this tasty. Then we got Georgia minus 3.5 versus Auburn, and finally South Florida money line. I don't usually put my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week in my parlay, but that's where I got my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. So South Florida money line versus North Texas. Once again, that's 10 to win 155.
That's a beautiful parlay, Johnnny. 10 to win 155 is amazing. My best bet of the week, my riskiest bet of the week hit last Monday, something that I did not share. I bet Trevor Lawrence to run into the end zone to be the next touchdown scorer of the play when he fell down. I bet $5 to win 150. I got it at 30 to 1.
That's awesome.
I just had a feeling it was going to go to the goal line and his goofy ass was going to get into the end zone somehow. But Johnnny, we have an elite week. Some really good games scattered across the entire board. The 12, the 3:30, the 7, the 9s. I just cannot wait. I want this SEC picture to clear up. And next week, when we talk about other conferences and their playoff implications, I want to talk about the Big 12 and what happens if Texas Tech goes undefeated and loses in the Big 12 or vice versa. That will be a wrench thrown in all the plans because you're going to have to include other teams. But you and I will tune in next week. Best of luck to all of your teams and go. What are they? The Bulls?
Oh, yeah. The South Florida. Yeah, yes, go Bulls, baby. Dude, Mean Green's a dumb mascot for North Texas. Go Bulls, baby. Let's go. Yeah. South Florida, we stand.
It's a playoff game. Best of luck.
Yeah. Okay. See you, dude.
See ya.